Hi, it's Dr. Lewis Clark. Thank you once again for taking time to watch this video. We've been doing a series on dysglycemia, which is blood sugar problems. Dysglycemia means that you cannot control your blood sugar. It's either too high, too low, or too much of both. Okay, so today we're going to go into and get into the most important part. What you want to know is, what can I begin to do to change my blood sugar problems? And I'm going to address diet, and I'm going to address nutritional support that can help you in this, and a little bit into exercise as well, because exercise is important, and knowing how much to do is the most important thing about that. So let's get started. First of all, let's talk about the too high blood sugar. This is your insulin resistance, your metabolic syndrome, and your diabetes. Okay, so especially type 2 diabetes. So insulin resistance, here's the problem. The first level of dietary change that you need to make is you must start to increase your fiber in your diet. These are good vegetables and fruit. Vegetables 2 to 1 on fruits, and if you're diabetic, you got to cut the fruits out completely, especially in the morning. No fruits in the morning for insulin resistance, metabolic syndrome, or diabetes. Then you got to reduce or get rid of and eliminate simple sugars and complex carbohydrates. That's your breads, your pastas, and of course your sugar. And then decrease your meal size. Because again, even if you're eating the good things, but you're eating too much, you're going to drive more glucose, drive more insulin, and that can prevent a problem. And then lastly is prevent late night snacking. Begin to get rid of that. Now, once you do this for 2 weeks, you're going to begin to notice that some of your cravings begin to go away. And that's critical to going to the next stage. Because now, if you want to go to the next stage, you need to go into a ketogenic diet with as high a fiber as you can and still be ketogenic. Okay, so you can get some keto strips and check that, or the best way to check your ketogenic state is through the blood machines that check your blood levels during the day, and you can get those online as well. So ketogenic diet with high fiber, you're going to do that for the next at least 3, but preferably 4 to 8 weeks. Okay, so you're beginning now to burn fats, ketones, for energy, because you're keeping your glucose really low. And this is the way you reset everything. And then once you get to a point where you're not hungry in the mornings, then you can begin to do intermittent fasting, or what we call intermittent eating. Okay, so you eat certain times of the day. Maybe you start with eating between 10 and 6 in the morning, 10 in the morning till 6 at night, and then you don't eat again till 10 the next day. And then try to stretch it to the point where you're actually only eating 6 hours a day. And so you go all the way from 6 or so at night all the way to noon the next day. That will make a huge difference. And then you can do the intermittent fasting with ketosis occasionally. So you might do it a couple of days a week, or you might do it for a week or 2, and then you come back out of it. So it's a rotational type thing. This is the best way to handle your blood sugar elevations, to reset your cells, to get you where you can maintain it. The next thing is we also have to avoid these glycation end products. Glycation end products are caused from high blood sugar. And so you already have a lot of those if your blood sugar's been high, so you don't want to add to that some that have happened because of improperly prepared food. And in particular, I mean things that are like burnt or crispy. So, we like to throw things on the grill, and we like to really charcoal and blacken that, but that blackening is a glycation end product, and it's difficult for you to get your blood sugar checked and get everything under control if you're taking in a lot of that. So avoid those, and then begin exercise lightly. And here's what I mean. If you cannot do the same exercise the next day that you did today, you did too much. All right, and so your recovery time has to be there. And if you can't recover, if you're sore, or if you're having even more problems, you're overdoing it. And then you can slowly increase, but don't overdo it from the beginning. Now, if we have an autoimmune diabetes problem, that's totally different. This would be like your type 1 or your late onset autoimmune cases where it happens in adulthood, which is very common. And now you've got to deal with dietary proteins. These are things that are setting off your immune system to cause an attack and therefore cause your diabetes to be worse. These are things like gluten and dairy are your two biggest reactive foods that your immune system reacts to. So you got to go on a gluten and dairy free diet. Corn can be very cross-reactive as well as other grains. So the best diet out there for this particular thing is the autoimmune paleo type diet, where you take out all the inflammatory foods and you go on an anti-inflammatory diet for a period of time. And then the other thing that you do is begin to work on your tolerance, your oral tolerance and your immune system tolerance. I mean, getting you where you can tolerate these foods again without your immune system reacting. And one of the best things for that is colostrum or other forms of IgG immune support. And then we got to work on our lifestyle. There's three things that nothing will take the place of. No nutritional support, no diet, and that is sleep, stress management, and getting your exercise in. Remember, those are essential, all right? So what about if it's low blood sugar? What if we have hypoglycemia? What are the key things? Well, number one, you have to eat often enough to make sure that your blood sugar stays stable. And then number two, you have to eat the right food. So what kind of foods are permitted? Vegetables, of course, meats, lentils. What is not permitted? Sweets, starches, and fruits initially until you get where you can maintain those better. And remember, with these blood sugar problems, the morning is always the worst. So if you're going to have some things, you can tolerate them better in the afternoon than in the morning. And lifestyle, here's the things you have to do. Eliminate or reduce your caffeine intake, avoid overtraining, and make sure you get enough sleep that you actually feel rested in the morning, which is difficult for hypoglycemic patients, all right? So I put this slide up here just to show you that the immune regulation and the immune response is, the insulin reception and the insulin response is very complex. There's a lot of things that are involved in this, and it includes the actual cell itself. Every human cell has a insulin receptor on it, and that receptor can become dampened or to the point where it won't allow insulin in. So the cell can be a problem. The brain can be a problem, in particular the hypothalamic area of the brain where it controls hormones, and insulin is a hormone. The microbiome of your gut, your probiotics, certainly are involved in blood sugar regulation, and especially the insulin response. And then fat tissue itself. Unfortunately, the more fat tissue you get, the more insulin resistance you get. It's worse. It's a vicious cycle. So when we go into the nutritional support, which we're about to do, I want you to see that nutrition support is designed to help these areas in the form of getting your insulin response back to normal. So the most important nutraceuticals for insulin resistance, there's 8 on here. I'm going to talk about the biggest 5. Number 1, resveratrol. Resveratrol has been proven to lower, and so has curcumin, and which is from turmeric as well, but resveratrol has a little bit even more support of that helps get your blood sugar regulated. Berberine, and this is huge. This is helping with some of those pathways that we just talked about. And then there's short chain fatty acids and glutathione, which is your number 1 antioxidant. And then we'll talk more about that in our next video especially. And then fiber. Fiber, when you take fiber into your diet, you slow down the absorption of the glucose into the bloodstream in your digestion process, and that helps tremendously to avoid this insulin resistant problem. Now, for hypoglycemia, it's going to be different. That's why you got to know which category you're in. If you're in hypoglycemic type category, you need adaptogens, which help work with that hypothalamic area of the brain to get you working better and support your adrenal function so you can produce cortisol and keep your blood sugar up in between meals. So you don't crash, you don't feel bad, you don't get tired, you don't get brain fog. General B vitamins, again, and mineral support is going to support the adrenal function. Fiber is huge, again, with this because it helps regulate the way the blood sugar is delivered to the bloodstream. It helps slow that process down. And these other two are big also. I'd say the top three are the main ones, but plant sterols and branched chain amino acids also play a big role. So remember, you got to take this and deal with it in 3 areas. Number 1, diet. You got to know the proper diet and how to progress. Number 2, nutritional support. And number 3 is lifestyle. Make sure we know how much exercise to get and not overdo it, and then progress in that. And make sure we're getting the proper rest, okay, and manage that stress because that plays a huge role in it. So, hope this helps you. I'm looking forward to next week. We're going to go into something totally different as far as what's affecting your blood sugar that you probably haven't even thought of. So if you haven't already, be sure that you like our page here, subscribe to our YouTube channel, click the bell so you get the notification when I do the next one, because this next thing I'm going to talk about is it most closely correlates with the increase that we've had in diabetes. Other things don't, but this one follows it exactly. So it's one of the major players in why we developed obesity and diabetes, and I'll be dealing with that in the next video. Until then, God bless and live life well.